All right, friends, it's time to give you loyal listeners a discount on protein powder. You may or may not know, but I launched my very first protein powder 2 years ago. It's a grass-fed beef isolate with only 3 ingredients: grass-fed beef, either organic cacao or organic vanilla, and organic monk fruit. Now, if you don't want any of the added flavor and sweeteners, you can also just get unflavored. And no matter what flavor you choose, you're getting over 23 grams of protein per scoop, which is going to keep you full and satisfied between meals. I love starting my day with a Fab4 smoothie and breaking my fast with that much protein. It makes a serious difference in my cravings and blood sugar balance the rest of the day, and I've seen it with my clients as well. Now, I never thought I'd own a product company, but when I got pregnant with Sebastian, I realized the majority of protein powders were chemically extracted or enzymatically extracted, and I wanted to use heat and water only. I wanted minimal ingredients because we don't need those emulsifiers, fillers, or added vitamins, minerals, and probiotics. All of those additions increase the chances that it's not going to work for your body, whether it be bloating, digestion issues. I just wanted pure, clean protein to keep you full and satisfied so you could build the most delicious Fab4 smoothie. And I have to say, I'm pretty proud of the flavor. If you take a look at our reviews on Amazon, you'll see 5-star reviews for flavor. And that is key, because if you don't love your Fab4 smoothie and you don't love drinking your protein powder, you're not going to do it. It won't become a habit, and it's consistency that outpaces everything. So if you're here and you're listening and you want to give our protein powder a try, use the code podcast5 for $5 off your order. And let me know if you love it. My favorite ways to apply this protein powder is in my Fab4 smoothie, making freezer fudge, making chocolate milk, making hot chocolate, and throwing the unflavored into all my kids' baked goods. So let me know how you use it. Let me know if you love it, and share this podcast deal with your friends. I'm so excited to invite today's guests on the show. Brooklyn native and Los Angeles-based Denise Vasi first became known by many for her high-profile modeling and acting career. But the mother of 2 has also organically built an inclusive online community. In 2018, Denise launched the digital resource Maed.co that focuses on nutrition, beauty, and mindful life balance for women who find themselves juggling careers and parenthood. Since launching Maed, Denise has exponentially grown her close-knit audience with her well-informed clean beauty recommendations, plant-based recipes, and conscious parenting tips. This podcast is also going to be full of all of her tips and tricks, plus some beauty must-haves in the clean space. So listen in and check the show notes for details. Denise, thank you so much for spending time with me. I know as a busy mom and entrepreneur, finding an hour of time is difficult, but I really want to tell your story of transitioning from a major career in modeling to focusing on your family, building a major online community called Maed, and really kind of taking the reins of your own life to make it your own. So thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. And I'm so excited to chat.
Thank you for having me. I'm such a fan of everything you do. So I'm so excited to be here. This is like my big moment of the year. I'm like, okay. So thank you so much. Let's get into it.
Okay. Well, can we start with modeling and what that career was like and how growing up in modeling affected your confidence and shaped your experience around your body first and foremost?
So I would say that I am one of the lucky ones. I have a strong group of women around me, my moms, my aunts. So when I started modeling, I was very young, 12 years old. And I had done everything for a week or 2. I did tap, I did ballet, I did this, nothing ever stuck. And my mom had a family friend who was like, she could do this, get her into it. And he kept on and he kept on. And so she had been collecting modeling agency cards since I was 6 months old.
I'm not surprised. They're like, here's my card. Call me when she's ready.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Actually, kind of. And my mom took out a stack of cards one day. I'll never forget. We were in my grandmother's bedroom. I don't know why she kept them there, odd. And she was like, listen, everyone's been asking me to get you into doing this. Do you want to do this? And I was like, sure. I don't know. I never thought about how people got in magazines and women specifically, right? This is YM, 17, that time in my life, right? I'm 12. Those are the magazines I'm reading. I never thought about it, but me and my girlfriends read them. I said, sure, let's try. And Eileen Ford ended up signing me. And my mom was like, here's the deal. She's going to be still in school. So everything has to happen after school. And she can eat and do and be whatever she wants. And I didn't really get that at the time, but my mom was really adamant about it. And so I think there was good and bad. I obviously grew up in an industry where I realized everything was about my physical and my body was my tool. And the positive is I really ended up learning to take care of my tool the way a chef learns to take care of their knives, because this is how I make money. And this is, what I'm based on. And when I go out for auditions or for jobs, this is what they're looking at. And so that was kind of my launching pad into wellness and beauty interest. I mean, the beauty stuff comes from my grandmother, but really like learning about it, learning about skin, learning about what I put in my body. How does that make me feel? Really started because I realized that I was based on my physical appearance. I think some of the negative stuff was I was short. I ended up not like getting to that 5'9" or more, height. And that ended up teaching me a really good lesson about niching down that I'm sure we'll get into later as well. But it was hard to walk into rooms and hear like, oh, she's beautiful. Or when I started acting, because I'm from New York, it was about my accent. So there were things where you had to like my skin started to thicken. So I guess that's a positive too, but it's hard. You go in and you present yourself to people and you put this book of your work out in front of people. And at the time, everything really happened in person, even more so, and people are judging you and you feel that. And so sometimes you come home trying to figure out like what's wrong with me. There was a big trying to put me in a box. I am Puerto Rican, Dominican, and Greek. And in my home, everything goes together. We eat a combination of everything. We speak Spanish, Greek, and English in one sentence. But when I went out to go-sees, which are modeling casting situations, they were like, oh, well, she's, beautiful, which was nice to hear, I guess. But then they'd go, but she's like not Black enough and she's not white enough for sure. And she doesn't look Latina. At the time it was like,
you're like, I'm all of these things.
I'm like, what do you mean? I'm here. Like, and it was the beginning of being ambiguous. And they were still trying to figure that out. So, there were positives and negatives, and I definitely got some thick skin, and I really learned how to figure out where I could be a success and what we know today as niching down. But in terms of my body, I eventually got to the place later in life where I realized I was never going to be 5'9". I was never going to not have hips. I was never not going to have an ass. Can I say that?
Yes, you can.
Like I was of descent where I was going to have like butt and thigh, and I got to figure out
curves.
Like,
yeah. I love that. It's interesting because now I think they are looking for ambiguous. We realize that like there is just so much commingling of like backgrounds, and that just so is what, it's just beautiful. And everyone saw it, all the modeling, the casting guys and the modeling agents saw it and gave your mom the card. But it is interesting that they had to put you in a box. And I love that today we're looking at body size and color variation, and everything there's no box. Don't put us in a box. But you just mentioned niching down. So niche down in knowing who we are and what we want to share. And although we may look ambiguous or have differences, like how do we own ourselves and share it with the world?
Well, that takes like a little bit of therapy, maybe.
Yeah.
And I mean, it takes time. What do you know at 12? What do you know at 20? What do you even know at 30? It definitely takes time and self journey. And so being open to that is probably the fastest way. And, like I said, through modeling, I was never going to do, what I figured out was I was never going to do the Gucci campaign if I didn't do the Gucci runway. That's the way it worked back in the day, right? Yeah. So you had to do the fall 99 runway to do the campaign. Yeah. And I was never tall enough to do the runway. So when they figured that out and came and talked to me, but I had a great agent who said, but you could do beauty. Like you could really kill it if you focused on that. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And by that time I was about 16, 17. And so I was like, okay, cool, I got it. And if you like put together your portfolio to represent like strong beauty images, you can do that. And I was like, okay, cool. And I started to, and again, like we know this now is like niching down, figuring out where our space is and figuring out what makes us unique. And again, at the time, it was the beginning of like this ambiguous, like that was cool, and saying, okay, for the last 5 years, everybody's been trying to put me in the box, but things are turning because everyone realizes like Benetton was big. Like people started to realize like everyone's doing it with everybody, and kids are like coming out looking all beautiful from mixing all different kinds of cultures. And saying, okay, cool, I can fit in by being different and embracing my individuality. And instead of looking at something like I'm not going to be 5'9", looking at it like I'm going to be like the hottest, most beautiful 5'7" girl you've ever met. And I'm going to take care of my skin and I'm going to take care of my body so that when I go in and meet these, casting agents who are looking for the next L'Oreal girl, I'm going to book that job. And it sounds vain, but that was my career at the time. And so that's where I put my focus, and focusing on where I could be successful was such a learning experience that I've taken and I use now when I launched Maed in so many different ways, and saying like, this is who I am. This is where my power is. This is where I can be successful. So I am going to just like kill it. I'm going to meet everybody that I need to meet in this specific industry. I'm going to focus on creating a book that represents me in this specific light. And I'm going to not get stuck on the fact that I'm not that, because I'm never going to be that. This is who I am. So the faster I accept it and the faster I figure out and appreciate what I have been given, then the faster like my track to success is going to be. And I'm just going to love myself more. And that's more important than anything, right? Because that type of business can have you focusing on the person you're never going to be. Oh man, how do I get this job? But they're looking for this. Oh, but they're casting that. And that is like so detrimental to your mental health. And I just went out and like killed it. And I did every major beauty campaign you can think of: MAC, Bobbi Brown, Clean and Clear. Like I was in high school and I'd get on the subway to go home and I'd cringe because the bad boys would like knock down the train door and get on the microphone and be like, and we got the Clean and Clear girl. But, at the same time, I was so proud because I pushed open doors that weren't necessarily just there for me. And for a little girl who, a little brown girl specifically from Brooklyn, from a very like blue collar family, like I could cry. Like,
I have chills.
Really proud of myself, and I couldn't have done it without like the women in my life. And so now that I have a daughter, it's really all about like every morning she's like, oh, I don't want to do my hair. It's like, your hair is beautiful. And like just getting her to really appreciate the things that make us different, because that's what you can take and run with. That's what makes you like special. But also like, if you're looking to launch a business, that is what's going to make your business success. You trying to copy what the next chick is doing, not going to work. Yeah. It's not going to work. Figure out what your little niche area is and go after it so hard.
I love it, because what you did is you just created alignment with the gifts that you've been given and what you could excel in and what you were good at. And it's so obvious that you're so easy to connect with. And I can only imagine the rooms that you lit up. I wish people could see you on video right now. I might have to just share a clip, because you are like a light bulb of glow coming from the other side of your screen. And I would say that I am a little bit thankful that you never hit that 5'9", because the goals you would have had for yourself and competing to be a specific size or restriction that comes with that type of a career, you got to instead focus on health, internal health that created external beauty. And you get to pass that down to your daughter. And it is really, really empowering. And I'm so glad that you pivoted and niched down and came into that alignment, because so many people are maybe just on the periphery of what would be their synergistic alignment, that when you actually pair those things together, your gifts and what you're good at, and bring those together into one, like you really can't like rocket ship a career. And you did just that, which is it's been a beautiful career and fun, really fun for me to watch, because back in those days I was reading 17 magazine. I am too. So it's amazing. Let's talk about how your life changed when you had your daughter and became pregnant. And obviously you had phenomenal female relationships that empowered you in your youth. How did your life change when you became pregnant? And did you find out you were having a girl before you gave birth, or was it a surprise?
No, I did find out, but we told no one.
Okay.
we did a reveal for other people.
Okay.
Because that is like that's my control freak nature. I was like, I need to know so I could connect with her. I didn't do like the names before. Like I really wanted to do that when I met her, but I started to want to connect with this baby. And I thought that the sex would help me. So, wow. Oh my God, life changed so much. Well, when I got pregnant, I was a star of a primetime TV show and we shot in Atlanta. So I would live in Atlanta for 6 months out of the year. And when I found I was pregnant, I knew I didn't want to go back there. It was like 17-hour days. By the time Friday rolled around, I wasn't getting into my apartment till 9 a.m. And then on Monday, I got picked up at like 4, which meant I woke up at 3. And I was like, there's no way I can raise a kid like this. So it was a good out because it's kind of toxic environment as well. And I started to share, social media was like Instagram had just started like the year before. I had been on Twitter for a couple of years and I started to share things differently, like just because I'm still creative and I still wanted to tell a story, but the story was less about how I was working out to stay skinny or I remember the year I talked a lot. I was going to the Emmys and I did like the watermelon diet and getting a fitting for that Emmy dress or the MTV red carpet. And it was less about that. And it was more about why I was making certain decisions. I had a home birth. I ended up having a home birth for both kids. Why I was, doing meditation at the time. And so I just kind of was organically sharing what my life was like and not necessarily what it was like to be on set or be a star or a model or whatever you want to call it. And my community started to really grow. And I was like, well, this is weird. Like people are like into me, not the character that I was playing on TV I had done 2 shows already. And at the same time in my personal life, I started to realize that my wellness and my health was so far more important than fitting into that dress or looking hot for that sex scene. Because I was like on a show where I played like the Carrie Bradshaw version. And I was like making out with guys left and right every episode, which was like really fun for my husband at the time.
Yeah, you're like, sorry, honey.
Yeah, I was like, damn, I gotta let go of this job. It's so fun. So, no, but I really started to look at things and go, wow, like me taking care of myself is so much more important than, looking good. And before I used to go in and I would see all my naturopaths and my holistic doctors and say like, okay, I've got to keep my skin good and my hair long and my nails. And now I was saying, I need energy. And I'm really tired because that's what pregnancy did to me. And what type of diet should I have? How do I give the baby the most vitamins? And I started to really pivot how I looked at health and wellness. And it was like the beginning while I was simultaneously sharing this like light bulb that was going off in my head was the beginning of creating community for me.
I love it. I think people, when they're following you online and you start to talk about something you're really passionate about, you may have drop off of community who are like, I'm not really interested in wellness. I just want to know about your character. But what you get on the back end is such a stronger community that is passionate about the same things with you. And they get to know you as a person, as a mom, as an entrepreneur, and they walk your life with you. And that kind of intimate relationship allows for you to share really what's worked for you and help other people, which obviously feels amazing.
So funny. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I have to tell you 2 things. So one, my biggest joke is like, So I had a 50% community when I was on TV, like 50% women, 50% men.
Yeah.
And my biggest joke is like, the guys were like, I'll hang around when all of a sudden you got this like serious boyfriend who became a husband.
Yeah.
I'll hang around when you got engaged. I'll hang around through the wedding. I might even hang around through the birth. But as soon as you start talking about like the cracked nipples and like how to heal those naturally and what products you should be using for that, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as that happened, I went from like to like 81, 80, whatever, the like 80 plus and like 19%, you know? So it was really funny when you say that, like the drop off, that is like so on point. Yeah. And to be honest with you, it was during that time that I started to spend so many hours late night talking to women who had so many questions. And it wasn't necessarily about giving them the answers, because obviously I don't have all the answers. And, you know, I'm not a wellness coach, and I am a research whore. Like, I will go down. My husband would be like, go to sleep. Like, you spend hours trying to figure out like what's the best XYZ to make sure that you know, don't get any toxicity in the house and like all of that. But that's not my degree. But I would spend hours talking to women, and what I would really want and always try to come out of the conversation with them through DMs is take these questions, go to those people that you trust, those doctors. And by the way, if you're like on the fence about whether that doctor is telling you what is right, or if what he's telling or she's telling you is wrong, then that's a red flag. And what I want you to do is ask more questions. And that was like, that's my thing. Like, I just want you to go out and ask more questions. And if what that person who you thought was like the one to go to is telling you something that doesn't feel right within your gut, trust that.
Yeah.
Because that intuition is so on point. And get second opinions and go to other people. And yes, Western medicine is great, but look at Eastern medicine before we take that prescription. How can we heal this internally? Look at it from a holistic approach. What's going on with your personal life? Oh, are you in a toxic relationship? Maybe that's why you have stomach pain every night. Like, it's all tied together. And so it was really from growing that community that these women were like, well, why don't you have a place? Why don't you have a YouTube? Why don't you have this? Why don't you have that? Where I was like, this is odd. Like, this is like, I didn't know anything about it. I'd always been talent on a set. You know, you tell me when to show up, and I've researched who I want this character to be, and I grow this other persona, and I go out and do it. But now people are coming to me for me. And it felt so much more gratifying, and like I was making such a difference, and a bigger difference than I was able to as an actress. And just remembering who I was as a little girl, my goal was always to be like the one who helped the situation. So maybe there was an argument going on at home, and I was like, wait, look at me, let's do a dance. Or, you know, maybe it was like my mom didn't have time to do something, and I jumped in to help her because my mom was a single mom. And I've always tried to be the solution. And it really is what led me into this pivot and to transition into the digital world was, you know, this organic community that came from women and not men, because the men didn't want to know about my nipple cream.
Well, it's that intuition, right? Whether it's getting a second opinion or kind of just continuing to follow this passion and say, like, let me try this. Let me share a few things. Let me start a website. Let's see how this resonates with people, because it's really feeling good for me. And I'm just going to keep following that intuition. Can you talk about the beginning of starting Maed and what those first few days, first few months look like for the entrepreneurs listening in? Because you built this amazing community, and you weren't in that space before, but you just continue to follow your passion and intuition. And now it's this amazing community where people can learn a lot about health, wellness, clean beauty. And we're going to go down those rabbit holes eventually. But I kind of want to know the entrepreneurial story too.
So I'm laughing because I was so nervous. It's like, it felt, you know, I did Broadway once, and I was like, this feels more like out there than that. I remember like going to click the live button on the site and like being in the bathroom with my computer because I was so nervous. And I was like, people are waiting. And I had an assistant helping me at the time. And she was like, all right, let's go. We're ready. We're good. Like I've like checked everything, double checked everything. It's like good. The clicks and links are working and all that stuff. And I can't tell you, I knew nothing. And this was 2018. And I kept saying CEO when I meant SEO. And I was like just so lost because it's a complete new space for me. And I was nervous as fuck. And I was like, oh my God, I could fall on my ass right now. And I could make such a big embarrassment of myself. But then I also sat back and I remember thinking, but like, we've been working our ass off. Yeah. Like, I have invested so much money in building the site. There were so many options where like you could build a site in 6 months. I spent a year building the site. I spent so much time with the graphic designer going over every element, making it clean, but like also interesting, and like every single thing. When you hover over this is going to happen. When you do this. And I was like, I can't let that time, their time and my investment go to waste. But it was so nerve-wracking. And then I just remembered like everything else in life, I could have a choice and I could either fail and fall on my ass, but say I tried.
Yeah.
Or I could sit and grow old and always sit in regret and wonder, what if I did this? And I think that there are definitely moments in my life when I thought to myself, shit, I should have done that. Or what if I did that? And they're positive and negatives. Like if I would have married that guy, like, oh, but like, that's a negative, right? Like, I mean, that's a positive, excuse me. That's a positive. But like, there were times where I sat back and I was like, damn, I regret not making that choice when I had that opportunity. And I said, I can't do that this time. I'm going to press live. We're going to go live. Here we go. Oh my God, we're going. And we were there. And I can't tell you, it has been like this rocket ever since. I had beautiful people to go to for advice, friends that we have in common, Jerry Hirsch, Chriselle Lim, like people that I admire in the space who had been in the space forever, who I looked at and said, okay, here's what I really appreciate what they do. This is what I would do differently. And it just took off. It has been a lot more work. I knew it was going to be work. I wasn't in denial. I wasn't the girl who was in denial, because I spent a year or like closer to a year and a half, really like watching and figuring out, and how do you do this? Because that's who I am, like the researcher, like I said, in me, like got to figure out everything that I need to do. But I think that it was such a success so fast, and it continues to grow, that I am like just amazed and appreciative and so grateful for the community that has surrounded me, because not only did they like ignited this pivot for me, but also they continue to support me in ways that are far beyond anything I could have imagined. Recently, my son went through something small that actually has to do with like gut health. And I was amazed at how many people would check in every day and DM me like, how's he doing? And, you know, there is something to be said about community. I mean, it just is everything that you need. And whether it's your 6 people in your family around you, or your one best friend, or your one partner, or it's 200,000 people that you've never met, having a support system is everything.
We aren't immune to things that go wrong, like having a child that has an illness or goes through something tough, or having those fears as an entrepreneur to be like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Everyone thinks this is a hobby and they're not going to take this seriously, but this is how I feel. I want to do this. And just
the imposter syndrome.
Yes, it's a thing. So I'm so glad you took that big step, because it is an amazing community and you share such quality content. And I know it's a full-time job. I think when people look at building a community or having a blog or having online content, that they're like, oh, that must be so fun. That must be a walk in the park. It still is hard to prioritize yourself, because that doesn't ever go away. Your business is there. It's live. You can always be sharing. You can always be doing more. So I want to kind of unpack how you take care of yourself and your family, being this big entrepreneur that you are. What does day in the life look like for you? We obviously have to get your beauty routine in there and talk a little bit about your grandma and how she influenced your love of beauty. But let's do day in the life.
Well, it's never the same. It is all chaos. When I tell you, yesterday I went to like my second event in person, And I met a new editor from a big magazine and she was like, oh my God, you look like so put together. And I was like, girl, if you would have saw me 20 minutes ago, I was like putting deodorant on the car. Yeah. Like it is always chaos. I don't have the best sleep habits always, which I always am so transparent. I always say like my two worst, like the two most important things you can do for your health are like sleep and drink enough water. And those are the two things that I struggle the most with. I work pretty like irregular, crazy hours because I want to spend time with my kids. And that's really was like the reason I finally like made the jump and pivoted. So I might work till 1 and I might get up at 6 and I'll get up before the kids and then I will maybe open up a few emails. I'll have my like water with my lemon and I will try to have some quiet time as well for my like mental self and like prepare myself for the battle ahead. Yeah. Right now, my husband is away making a movie. So he's a director. And so it's like me and me and me and just me. Yeah. That's much more crazy. And then I'll get up, I'll make breakfast, start prepping lunch because my little girl, thankfully, has been for the last 3 months in person in school. And then I've got my 2-year-old. He comes like stomping in, looking for berries in the morning. His we like the whole fruit before anything else kind of thing. And then we all get in the car. I drop her off, come back, and I'm with him. We do a little playtime, and then I'm like, okay, mommy's got to like work on emails. It's crazy. When it comes to my self-care, that is where I'm like, guys, I love you. Peace out. Because I can't make a meal. I can't have the energy to do the dance parties. I can't sit down and play and read. I can't be a mom and I can't be a partner if I don't take care of myself. And it really was the first year of motherhood. And I didn't even have the site yet. I was just kind of like researching and putting ideas together. When I figured out that if I didn't take care of myself, all hell would break loose. No, I was not a good person. I was not a great wife. I was not a good mom. I was agitated. I was irritated. And that's when I started to really understand self-care. Because what do you know? Like 20s, 30s, it's all self. Like, all about me. But here I was like I didn't give everything to my kid because that's the person I am. I'm like a full on, like 100%. You're my friend. I will give you everything. I will be there for you at all times. My partner, my husband, anything he needs. But I realized there's only so much of me to go around. And so I need to preserve some time for me. And so what I do is I schedule in my time. It's in my calendar, just like this meeting is today. Yeah. Just like the school report card I have to go over with my daughter's teacher next week. Like it is in there that I'm getting my nails done this morning. Yeah. Or it's in there that mom's going to go for a sauna, which is, I'm very, very, very privileged to have infrared in my house. So I'm like, mom's going to go do that. So don't bother me. It's yellow in the calendar. My husband knows, any of our support systems know. And that's how I think you need to look at self-care. Like you need to schedule it in because it's just as important as getting on that Zoom. And it's just as important as your work deadlines. And it's just as important as being there for your kids or your partner. And I've been such an advocate for it because I really have seen what a difference it's made in my life.
Absolutely. I mean, you always hear, put your oxygen mask on first and all of these things. It becomes even more important when you layer on children. It is one thing to manage what you were saying, the 20s and 30s, your personal self-care with a really crazy job that requires long hours. You still can find the time. When you layer on children, you have this layer of mom guilt that is so heavy. And it not only are you fighting for, hey, I need this hour of time for myself to, like you said, get in my infrared sauna or get my nails done or go get my hair done or whatever it is that you're taking, how you're spending time taking care of yourself. But you also look at those hours when you schedule them as that's an hour away from my child. So I think, how do you push through and flex that muscle so that you continue to prioritize that? Yeah. And kind of like work through that mom guilt.
Well, I know I'm confident in knowing that when it's time for me to be present as a mom, I'm present as a mom. And that is exactly like I ride and die for them. So when my kid comes home from school, we have that system and we have like what we're going to do together. And it might change. It might be a park, or it might be, she loves to do projects and build things with boxes and things. We get a lot of product boxes for her. And we do stuff like that. And I know that if I can put my phone away and I can put my computer away and give her whatever point in time, whether it's after school or she does get screen time now that she's 6. So she'll have a little screen time and maybe we'll do it then. But as long as I know that I've shown up fully at a certain time and we've have direct eye contact, and it is me and her and maybe the other babies and my other son is involved and she sometimes allows it and sometimes doesn't. I'm confident in saying, okay, girl, now daddy's going to take over, or maybe now you can watch an episode of Barbie because mommy needs to do this, or and I'm with my son all day because he's not in any kind of daycare either. So that is how I step away from that, because I know that when it's time for me to be present, I'm fully present. Because I think when you half-ass this and you're one foot's in and out of the door, no one benefits. My team's like, what? I didn't understand that email. Because I'm like, trying to like voice dictate this and I'm trying to do that doesn't really work. So I try and really just maintain my focus when I'm with my kids and say, this is mommy and me time. And then I'm very like vocal about, okay, girl, mommy needs to go and mommy needs to do a video about this, or mom needs to go answer Kirsten about that. So I'm going to take 20 minutes and get on my computer. I'm going to do some emails. What do you want to do during that time? And kind of empowering her to make a choice. So she feels like she's deciding what she's going to do with her time. And then it doesn't become mommy's leaving me for work. It becomes like mommy's giving me an option on how to spend my time too, teaching her to advocate for herself, make decisions as well. And my son is just kind of running around with craziness because he's a boy. I don't want to say that because that sounds like genderism, but let me just tell you, I'm so not for genderism, but there's certain things that are just innate. And I got a boy who is like, give me the trucks and give me all the boy stuff. It is what it is. And so he's super like flow and goes with the flow, and he follows his sister around. So if she goes into a room to do something, he follows her too. Yeah. And there are things I feel guilty about, but it never has to do with my work because I feel confident in the decisions I make. And I do things later. So once they're asleep, I'm like, okay, they're good. I know that I need to have my self-care time. And so it might be 9:00 and I'm tired. It might be 10:00 and I'm tired. But I know that if I don't have some decompression time for myself, then tomorrow it doesn't matter. So I can go to sleep at 9 and wake up at 5. But if I didn't get that release, I'm going to wake up not my best self. So I'd rather stay up a little bit longer and read a book. Or sometimes it's like I'm scrolling through Instagram and it's like mindless, like now reels, right? Like,
yeah,
oh, that's so funny. And it's just that. Maybe it's texting a girlfriend, or for me, self-care is always something different. Maybe it's 10:00 at night and I need to throw on like an online yoga class. And that's what I need. I'm really into like looking at my body, looking at my mind and saying, okay, the day has been this, it's done. The kids are at bed. I showed up as best as I can. Not every day is perfect. Some days I fail at being a boss or an entrepreneur. Sometimes I'm late for a client. Sometimes I suck at being a mom, but like everyone lived, everyone survived, everyone ate, everyone had a meal, 3 meals today, whatever, snacks.
Yeah.
And so that's a win. And I got to remember the wins, the small wins. It's, my life is all about like making the small wins because it's a constant juggle, as you know, like every day it's like, what's coming at me left and right? Like, like I'm in the matrix. Like, okay, good. Got that off to the left, like off my to-do list. And so I need to sit back and figure out, what do I need today? What is it? Is it like a gua sha? Do I need to go spend 30 minutes like gua sha-ing my face? Do I need to sit and meditate? And so I feel confident in the way I prioritize my day because I'm really focused on making sure that I give people the time. I look people in the eyes. I have moments with them. And that is what life is about, the experiences.
Oh, just the major takeaway of what you just said is that presence. It's that eye contact, that 100% presence that you are giving your children, that you're giving your business, and that you're giving yourself, that removes the guilt and the shame, because it is true. It's when we're half in and half out that really starts to creep in. When you're checking your emails while you're playing Duplos, that just doesn't work. And there has to be strict, clear boundaries to protect your time for self-care, but also to protect the relationships you have with your husband or with your child, or, any relationship that you have. And I love that. That's such a great takeaway, and something that I need to even work on personally. So thanks for sharing that. Let's get into some of your beauty hacks, tricks. I mean, you're the queen when it comes to this stuff. So obviously, and you've done it in such a clean way. You have clean beauty picks that are your favorites. So I would love to know, you said gua sha, and using that. I'd love for you to explain to the audience what that is if they haven't heard of it, and what are some of your favorite beauty products and kind of like your holy grail. Because I think that's the hardest part about changing products. If someone's been on a traditional line that's full of endocrine disrupting chemicals, and they're like, but if I don't use my Laura Mercier tinted or my Bobbi Brown this, how do I, and so I'd love just for you to help us all do that a little bit faster.
So obviously you can head to Maed for like all the picks. I've done all the work there. Me and my team have done all the research. So you don't have to do the legwork. But gua sha specifically is basically a tool, like a stone that you use for facial massage. It's the non-invasive Botox, I like to call it, because I'm a little fearful about putting things in my body that will change my face. Like, that is purely vanity. I have nothing against it. Like, I believe in a clean system, but listen, what you want to do with your face is your business. I'm just worried about putting something in there that's going to make me look different.
Yeah.
So I gua sha probably, 4 to 7 nights a week. And you use a stone to massage your face and release muscles in your face, because I can't even remember the number, but it's ridiculous how many muscles we have in our face. People don't even know sometimes. And it also ends up releasing a bunch of tension. So I happen to be, like most people, carry a lot of tension in my jaw. I tend to grind my teeth in my sleep. And sometimes you don't even realize until somebody has gone in, and either you've had somebody else, or you use a gua sha, or you know how to release that tension in your jaw yourself through facial massage, which is an incredible thing that you can do for yourself. I promise you, if you just even try it for 5 minutes, anyone who hasn't tried it, you feel like you've lost 5 pounds, and you're just your whole personality is lighter. So I definitely use that. It's part meditative, it's part vanity. And that is something that I feel like everyone could do at home and would just change how they looked at the day, and also their physical beauty appearance if they're into that. So that's a big one for me. And a lot of my skincare products that I love come from a company called Biossance. They are, in full transparency, a partner of mine, but they are a partner of mine because I went out after them. And 3 years ago, I said, wow, this is an EWG verified brand, and it's chic looking product, and then tried it, and then it worked. And I was like, oh, but they're clean products work, because here's the thing about me and Maed and everything. I want you to buy products that work. It can be clean, but if you don't have if you can't notice the benefits of it, you don't want to spend your money on it. I already know that, because I don't want to spend my money on it. So the Biossance love of my life, as I call it, is the squalane vitamin C rose oil. It's so light. It's so beautiful. You can use a drop for a little bit of glimmer, in the daytime for that, people who love that glowy skin. And then at night you use a little bit more for a treatment, and it just locks in a bunch of moisture. It's never greasy. I never break out from it. I've been using it for, 3 years now. It's every once in a while I might use a new oil because I'm testing products, because I do a ton of that. But no matter what, that's a staple. I come back to that at all times. Okay. So that's definitely, the gua sha, the rose oil, and then my Kosas Sport deodorant. I think they launched, I want to say, about a year and a half ago, and it's a roll-on. So I had to get back to using a roll-on because it felt so dated to me. But it has, I think it's AHA that helps. So it's a clean deodorant, obviously, and it's a clean deodorant that works. But if you're someone, especially a person of color, or you're someone who just happens to get that dark pigmentation from shaving, the serum in it helps fade that away. So you've got this 2-for-1, and I'm all about 2-for-1s. Like the more you can do for me, the better, obviously. So that is like one of my everyday go-tos as well. I love 54 Thrones, which is a Black-owned beauty business that has these incredible body butters. So, lotion's something that we put on our skin. Most of us put on our skin every day or several times a day, especially now we're washing our hands so much. They really have a lot of toxic ingredients in them, the traditional, conventional brands that you'll find at the drugstore. So 54 Thrones makes this super clean, super rich body butters that are just so luxurious. So I kind of just throw those around the house and in the car all over the place. You can just like find them popped all over. Like my husband's like, what's this random? I'm like, don't move that. That's by the remote for a reason. Because like when I go to turn on the remote, to use the remote to turn on the TV, I need to like butter up my so that's another one. I think that when you are looking to transition into clean beauty, you start slowly. Like you said, it's really hard for people. Change is hard in general. And when you are looking at the benefit of it, right? So it's not only mental, it's also you're looking at it in the mirror and you're like, oh my God, but this is my concealer. Like this works. Why would I change this? It's really hard. So I say, you want to be mindful because you don't want to create waste. You don't want to just throw everything away in your beauty closet. So you're going to move slow because that's what's mindful in terms of waste, but also that you're going to move slow so that you don't kind of get overwhelmed and start to resent the journey. I don't want you to resent the journey. I want you to make this journey in the most positive way as possible. So we're going to clean out really slowly and we're going to move from like your least the concerned product to your like most coveted. So for me, the last thing I changed was my red lip because typically, especially pre-COVID, I rocked a red lip. So that's kind of my thing. And I don't want to go out there and try and find something that's going to replace the red lip that I love and die for because the process could become frustrating. And through the frustration, I can start to resent the journey. So let's start at a place where you're like, oh, mascara. Okay. I like my mascara. It's okay. But it's not like I need that mascara. Okay. So that's a good place to start. Right. So you'll start there. And then I would say you should look at brands and you should look at brands as a whole. Look at their community, look at their marketing material. Do you feel represented? Do you feel like their brand ethos, you're aligned? Because that's super important. Where you spend your money is making a statement. You are, telling them that everything that they're doing is okay when you buy at that brand. And if you do find a brand where you feel like these are my people, they speak the language I speak, they represent the ideals that I have, and their products work and their ingredient list works, then that's a good place to just start going through all their products.
Yeah.
Because you might like their mascara and then maybe the foundation works or doesn't, but then you find a lipstick that works. And, loyalty is everything. And never forget that your dollar says everything.
Yeah. You're voting with your pocketbook to support a brand to give them the ability to grow and reach more people and change more lives. So I absolutely believe that in all aspects of our life, from, the clothes that I buy to the makeup that I wear. I do like to support brands that represent what I love, and that is clean products that support our health. So I'm into it.
7 years ago, when I looked around at the modeling, also, it gave me accessibility to things that I wouldn't have had as like a brown girl from Brooklyn. I just wouldn't. Unfortunately, that is the truth. And because I was lucky and fortunate enough to end up in this career, I started to understand, first of all, that products were different in Europe, that product ingredient lists were different in Europe. This is a big thing for me. That was like, oh, why is that? And that kind of started that journey. But also, I just started to look at things and say 7 years ago that, well, the wellness and health industry felt very whitewashed. And it felt like it was talking to only white people, only, and also wealthy people. And I was like, that's not true, because my grandmother has been doing that for 50 years. I mean, I was 11 and 10 years old running around, and she's been telling me, oh, I can't eat tomatoes. And I'm going, why can't you eat tomatoes? They're just tomatoes. Like, what does a 10-year-old know? Like, they're a vegetable. You're supposed to eat, or I guess they're a fruit because they have a seed. But do you know what I mean? Like, and she was like, oh, because like her trying to explain to me, I don't know how many years ago, 20 plus years, 30 years ago, that she wasn't allergic, but she was intolerant.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, they don't sit well with my body. Like, and that's something that I grew up with, and I didn't grow up with money. And I come from a very mixed race family. And so when I started to look at the industry and said, well, why aren't you talking to girls like me? Because that's happening at home for us, for many families. You know, culturally, that is happening for us. We're mixing oils and stuff at home to slather all over our bodies as well. And so I really wanted to create Maed to be a resource for women and to say, this is for you too. And this is for you at different price points. And yes, the $40 shampoo might be cleaner than the $17 shampoo or the $10 shampoo that you can find at Target. But this $10 shampoo at least has minus this, and this. And that's better than what you're buying in the corner store anyway. So here are how you can make the transitions. And here is what you can still afford. And let me help educate you so that you can ask more questions of brands, so that you can make better decisions. And so you can decide what's important to you, because you might not know this, but over time, X amount of this, a little bit, could potentially lead to XYZ problem, health problem, especially if you then talk about like what your family history is, what your medical history is. And, you know, that was really why I created Maed.
Yeah. Wellness. It's something that wellness needs to be for everyone, of every financial, like whatever, wherever you fall financially, and especially wherever you fall ethnically and culturally, and your color and like your community that you grow up in. Like you're providing a voice, and you're providing that community that needs to be there for people of color, for women of color, raising their daughters. And you were lucky enough to grow up in a home where your grandma sounds like my type of woman. She is checking in with herself and teaching you to check in with yourself. I think that is something that is family specific. There are so many people that I've worked with that have, way more wealth than I could ever imagine having. And I'm helping and supporting them with the science. And it's amazing to me sometimes that with all the money and all the access, they still were never taught as human beings to say, how do I feel? How am I feeling emotionally? How am I feeling physically? How does this feel in my body when I eat this way or sleep this way? And you may be just fine at 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. and be like, I actually feel good because I went in my infrared sauna and I scrolled and I read this book that I love, and I feel energized by that. And you knowing to check in with yourself on when you're pushing your boundaries and when you need to sleep more, that's what you were taught from your grandma and the strong women that surround you, including your grandma and your mom. And that is so priceless, because that what they gave you, you're now giving back to your community through Maed.
And to my children, it's invaluable. So we decided to start the foundation for our kids very clean. You know, I look at things and go, okay, as an adult, I've been taking things out, trying to figure out what makes me feel best. And when me and my husband had our daughter, we said, well, let's just start her out as clean as possible. And then when the time comes, introduce things, and then she can tell us how those things feel for her. So no dairy, no meat, no gluten, no processed sugar. So one of my favorite stories is we went right before the pandemic, we went camping, or glamping.
Yeah.
And that was her goal for 2020. She wanted to go glamping. So we went my husband put this trip together for Valentine's Day. We get down to like the main campsite and they have one of those like ice cream, slushy, ice pop, like little containers that we grew up in for sure. And we ate them, with all the food coloring and out of the plastic thing. And you slice your lips on the side trying to get the
Otter Pops.
Yeah, exactly. So she goes, I want to have it. And I said, well, mommy really doesn't want you to have that because that's not great for you. It's not going to make you feel good. And she goes, no, but I really want that. Why can't I have it? I said, well, and it's always about conversation. Always about conversation with her. Even when she didn't eat meat, we went to the meat aisle in the grocery store and I said, this is meat. This is where it is. This is what it is. This is how it comes. This is where it comes from. It's an animal. It gets slaughtered. We choose to eat it or don't, depending how we feel. So it's always about conversation. And I said, well, you can have it, but I don't think it's going to make you feel good. Here are the reasons that mommy wouldn't want you to have it. It's made with processed sugar. It has food coloring. So we go down the conversation. She's like, I still want it. I said, okay, no problem. You can have it, but we're going to check in with our body 15, 30 minutes and in an hour. And you're going to tell me how you feel. You feel great? Great. And if you don't, I think that you want to know. And I definitely want to know. Okay, fine. I'm going to feel fine. And, she's 5 and she's going to be fine.
Yeah.
20 minutes into having that thing, she's like, oh my God, it's terrible. It's so toxic.
I love it.
Oh, I feel like I'm itching. It's like not good. It's so bad. My stomach hurts. 20 minutes. I kid you not. And so ever since that day, whenever those things pop up at like an event or, the random store with a friend, she's like turns around to a friend and she goes, oh, don't have those. But my point is like, we really have taught her to, and we will with my son, to check in with your body and see how you feel. Because some people, dairy's not an issue. Mm-hmm. Some people, gluten's not an issue. And for some people, you really start to, you really notice the difference. And 10 years ago, I did the clean program with Alejandro Younger, who I'm sure you know, who's one of our on-call doctors and friends. And I'm getting ready to do it again. I've done it every year for 10 years where I wasn't breastfeeding or pregnant. And that was the launching pad of me really understanding what it was like to feel like clean. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, like literally the colors across the room look brighter and I can see texture and things. And the whites of my eyes are so clean, clear and vibrant. And I really want my kids to know that feeling and then for them to decide what makes them feel good versus spending their life trying to get back to a place.
You make a really important point. And I know some of the people listening, I'm sure, have 5, 6, 8-year-olds who, have grown up having a lot of kids' meals or kids' food. It's a big pet peeve of mine that there are kids' menus and that there are kid-specific foods because a lot of times they're fried, processed, highly palatable, sugar-laden. We're going Go-Gurt versus like a plain yogurt if someone wants dairy. We're going a kids' meal that comes with carrot sticks instead of roasted veggies like the adult meals. It's a bigger problem. It's a cultural problem or like a nationwide problem and restaurant problem.
It's an America problem. Like today, my kid's lunch, I made her broccoli this morning, artichoke, she's got fermented cabbage. Like that's her lunch for school. She only knows what I give her, you know, and knows what we introduce to them. And she knows it makes her feel good and she trusts that.
Well, that's really important because what ends up happening is I hear a lot of comments like, it's easy for kids. Kids can have kids food. They can have chicken nuggets and they can have kids meals. And my kids don't know when they've had too much sugar. And I think the real issue there is that if they aren't eating in a balanced way and having whole foods and then knowing what the difference feels like to have processed sugars, to know what that energy surge and that stomach ache and that crash and that irritability or that meltdown or that tantrum feels like, because they're constantly dysregulated, then they're not going to be able to check in with themselves. So not only are you laying the foundation of this is nourishing food that isn't going to dysregulate blood sugar, that isn't going to make you feel erratic or emotional or hyper and crash, but this is baseline. Now you have the freedom and flexibility with consent. You're giving your daughter informed consent. This is what's in there. This has sugar. This has food coloring. This has whatever it is. Would you like to have it? No judgment, but this is just, you need to have informed consent. Giving it to her at 5 years old, then checking in with her. How does this make you feel? Allows for her to then flex that muscle of, how do I feel with things? How do these things make my body feel? How does my brain feel? How do I feel emotionally? Whatever the case may be, you're empowering her with a lifetime of lessons that she'll be able to check in with herself in so many other facets of life outside of food, in relationships, in jobs, everything. It's so amazing. I mean, you're an amazing mom, an amazing entrepreneur, and you've just built a great community to help people do exactly that. Like, I have so many takeaways from this podcast personally, and I'm really excited to share it with our audience.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really love everything that you do. And I have so many friends who have just said how you've taken them to the next level in their journey of health and wellness. So like that, those words coming from you to me, I will hold dearly.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Denise. I want to end today's podcast with one question, and that is, what does body love mean to you?
Ooh, body love, I think, like for so many people right now, means acceptance because of the so many different, places I've been in life and the world, and starting in modeling. It's been a journey for me to accept who I am and accept what I've been given. And I really think that if you can focus on the parts that you love about yourself versus the parts that you don't, then you will have success in your heart, and you will have success in your everyday life, and you will have, just feel so much better. I think we live in a culture where we're constantly trying to lose the weight. I'm still carrying 30 pounds because of baby weight into pandemic era.
Yeah.
And you know what? I was carrying 40, but at 40, I didn't feel good. I felt that extra 10. I felt I was slow. I felt like I was tired. And then I got to a place where I was like, okay, I feel better. And it's not where I want to be, and it's not where I'm going to be. But when I'm ready to dedicate myself and give that time to I have to go in and really lift weight in order to burn. That's how my body works. So I think that body love is also accepting what works for your body, what works for the foods that you put in your body. Like I said before, maybe you're okay with dairy, maybe you're okay with meat. That's good. Knowing that has to do with body acceptance and knowing how to get your body into the place of where you want it to be. Running isn't going to do anything for me. It doesn't. And I accept that. I'm never going to be 5'9", and I'm never going to wear a size 0. And reformation, I love you guys, but your clothes are never going to fit me because they're not built for my physique. Yeah. No matter how skinny, at 115, I was never going to do it, And accepting that is so freeing. And I'm so happy to see, there's so many downfalls of social media, but one of the most beautiful things right now is how much big, beautiful bodies we see, and how many small, beautiful bodies we see, and how much acceptance there is. And I hope that everyone stops the scroll to read those comments and give love to the people who are out there putting their bodies out there in all versions, tiny, small, no chest, big butts, all of it, because they're empowering our future. And for me, body love is just accepting where I am and telling myself it's okay. And if I want to change something about myself, that's okay too. I just got to put in the work.
I love it. It's so true. It is, social media can be a really toxic place, but when it comes to big movements, like what we're seeing in the body acceptance space, being that you can be healthy at, and I think that's really the crux there, is it's you can be healthy at a very small weight, at size 2 to size 22. And it's all about putting in the work. And that last part right there is, how do you show up for yourself and take care of yourself? If you want to change is okay, but what's the why for the change? And you talked about having energy and feeling good. That right there that exudes so much more beauty than deprivation and trying to white knuckle your way through some kind of crazy diet that doesn't have substance behind your why.
Absolutely.
Oh, Dee, this was amazing. I'm so excited to share it. I'm so excited to share all of your community Maed and all of your beauty picks. Honestly, I feel like I need to go get that vitamin C rose oil immediately.
The squalane oil? Yeah. Oh my God, do get it. It's so good. Oh, it's so good.
Okay. Well, there you go. You sold one. We will put everything in the show notes, but where can people follow along?
So on Instagram, I'm at Denise Vasi. That's Vasi. And then you can head to the site. Please come on and visit us at maed.co. That's maed.co.
Love it. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you for listening to Be Well by Kelly. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Learn more at bewellbykelly.com and follow me on Instagram at bewellbykelly. I would love if you picked up my books, Body Love and Body Love Every Day. They're sold on Amazon and at all major booksellers.